All right, so hello there. Welcome to Civil Grand Jury Lab. My name is Dr. Josh Franco, Assistant Professor of Political Science at Cuyamaca College. Let me make sure I'm sharing my screen. Looks like I was sharing a screen of myself. Funny time. All right, let's dive right in. So the Civil Grand Jury Lab is a workshop series that I host that focuses on California's 58 county civil grand juries. We virtually have journeyed through 2 counties throughout California, learn how to navigate county civil grand jury websites, and review a recent civil grand jury report. This workshop is on Thursdays from 6:30 to 7 p.m. on Zoom through September. So this is our last workshop for this semester. As I mentioned, I think in a prior episode, I decided just to go through September this semester because my wife and I and our son, we are expecting baby number 2. And so I need to make sure I spend my evenings getting ready because we're about 9-10 weeks out. So choices, and happy wife, happy life, and happy baby, happy baby. So the key here is I need to make sure I spend my evening times getting ready for our second child and newborn. So this is our schedule, or was our schedule. First week, no workshop, and then workshop 1 was an overview. Number 2 was Merced County. Number 3 was San Diego County. And then last week we discussed Alameda County. And today we'll go into more detail on the Civil Grand Jury website, just so that you have, hopefully at this point, an appetite for learning more and wanting to get involved after you've seen the overview and then some examples of how it works in different counties around California. So let's go ahead and jump to that section. So workshop 5, the Civil Grand Jury Lab in detail. This is a screenshot of the website, which we'll be visiting momentarily. So our learning objectives with this workshop are to navigate the Civil Grand Jury Lab website, and secondly is to describe the utility of conducting research. So let's go ahead and explore the Civil Grand Jury website. So this is the Civil Grand Jury Lab website. And first we'll start off with the navigation pane on the top right, which is home, the About Us, and we have a section on civil grand juries, lab facilitation, database, research, simulation, and public policy. We have a frequently asked questions page, both joining the lab and an application to join, and then contact us. From there, we have a search bar. So if you want to type in a term that you're looking for, you can plug it in here. This is the navigation menu, but in complete text as opposed to drop-down menus. Here I have a short welcome video, so I'm gonna go ahead and play that for us.
Greetings. My name is Dr. Josh Franco, and I'm an assistant professor of political science at Cuyamaca College,
and I'm the founder of the Civil Grand Jury Lab. The Civil Grand Jury Lab is an undergraduate student research lab that's focused on fostering the next generation of leaders and scholars by researching California's 58 county civil grand juries, utilizing formal modeling, qualitative analysis, and quantitative analysis. Now, as a former or current student enrolled at Cuyamaca College, you're invited to join the lab. There's a range of activities such as lab facilitation, database, research, simulation, and public policy that you can get involved with to acquire knowledge, skills, and abilities that will serve you well now and well into the future. Feel free to complete the application to join today and to start building your experience in the lab. Now, if you'd like to learn more about the lab, feel free to visit our website at cgjlab.com. And be sure to check out the About page, the Frequently Asked Questions page, and the Join the Lab page to learn more about the opportunities that are available to you in the lab. Now, I want to conclude by sharing why I started the lab. Well, when I was a student at community college, I didn't know what research was. And I just happened to come across an opportunity with a professor who was working on his dissertation and to help him collect data. That began a very long process for me to start to understand what research meant, which is asking questions, finding answers, and then asking more questions. And so what I'd like to do now as a full-time faculty member at Cuyamaca College is to create a research experience for my students so that you know that there's opportunities for you to do research, obviously when you're here at campus, but also when you transfer and into your professional careers. Researching is a very important skill, and it's throughout hundreds of occupations that are available to individuals. And so I want you to know that I'm here to support you in learning about and engaging with and conducting and seeing if research is part of your future. So I hope this video welcomes you to this process, and I look forward to receiving your application. Take care.
So that's my welcome video. And a little bit about the lab. So the organization of it. So there's this concept of lab activities, and we do 3 different things: research, teaching and learning, and public policy. For research, it's about building out a database of civil grand jury reports, findings, and recommendations, and then conducting general research, which I'll talk about in more detail in a bit. Then we have teaching and learning, and including a development of a simulation that will eventually be used in either my California politics class and or my American politics class. And then for the public policy is developing a blog system that helps to not only share how reports have been published or at least highlighted by media, but then going into more detail about the reports, the findings and recommendations, and basically following up about what's been done. Under lab facilitation, this is the idea of how do you learn the process of making a lab work. So students who are interested in that kind of process. Another way of thinking about it is like lab administration. We have a section on that. Research activity is about building basically a stable repository of civil grand jury reports, findings, and recommendations, and local government responses. And then general research would be engaging in the life cycle of research, which I'll go into more detail in a bit. And then we have our teaching and learning activity, which is a simulation. And for those of you who've taken a political science class with me, you're familiar with the sim. This would be a derivative of that sim in a little more detail, and I think a little more hands-on. And then lastly, we have our public policy section. So let me go ahead and navigate us first to the About page. And the About page obviously redescribes the website and our vision and our mission and our motto. I talked about those in the overview, the first episode or first workshop of this series, so I won't go over those again. And then we also have our lab advisory committee, and then myself. One thing I'd like to point out here is I did give a presentation at the 2021 California Grand Jurors Association Annual Conference. So you're welcome to check out that presentation. It's about 30 minutes, and I really appreciate the opportunity from the California Grand Jurors Association to present not only about the lab, but the kind of initial research that I've done, and I hope to continue to do. And if you've watched the overview, you'll see many elements of that here as I present it to this broader audience. So in addition to that, we have these different areas, and I'll go ahead and click on lab facilitation. So for each area, have a definition of what it is and how it relates to the other lab activities. And then what, in this case, would be deliverables for that area. So for example, with lab facilitation, some of our anticipated deliverables are a strategic plan, a website, support events like orientations, training, seminars, webinars, YouTube videos, Twitter tweets, and a quarterly newsletter. For a database, this describes the knowledge, skills, and abilities that you would acquire by participating in this aspect of the lab. And we go into detail about what those knowledge, skills, and abilities are. So for example, for knowledge, it says knowledge gained include California civil grand jury reports, findings, and recommendations to local governments' responses to these reports, and the data cycle. So data collection, data content, data coding, and data management. And then for this area, we have learning objectives and then deliverables as well. So something like a code book for the database. For those interested in the general research area, the knowledge, skills, and abilities include things like skills developed include proficiency in using introductory formal modeling, qualitative analysis and quantitative analysis, writing literature reviews, and preparing manuscripts individually and collaboratively. And then we have our learning objectives and deliverables as well. And so that's a part of this process. For simulation, we talk about some of the knowledge, skills, and abilities there as well. So abilities obtained include the capacity to apply to serve on a civil grand jury, capacity to explain the process of how reports are developed, and the capacity to explain how local government act or do not act on the findings and recommendation included in reports. So for example, say you're interested in this because you want to help develop a teaching tool for others. So after you do this effort, you'll be able to, for example, remember the political and legal history of California civil grand juries, or apply agenda setting to determine which local governments are investigated, or evaluate local government responses to reports and findings and recommendations. So our hoped for deliverable here is a 7-part simulation that can be embedded in a future course. And then lastly, for public policy, some of our learning objectives here include understanding how local government acting or not acting on recommendations changes or keeps the status quo, analyze written and oral arguments made by local government representatives to justify changing or keeping the status quo. And then lastly is publish a public policy blog post, which analyzes a county civil grand jury report, the report's specific findings and recommendations to a local government, the local government specific response, and whether the status quo, was changed or not, and what keeping this or changing the status quo means to the local government and its constituents. So that's a kind of healthy overview of what the lab is intended to do. We've had about 5-7 students so far express interest, and I would say 2 have continued on in their work. And our all-star student is Steven Soto, who just finished his degree at Cuyamaca College and transferred to UC Santa Barbara. And so when you think of the lab and you think about doing undergraduate research, it is part of it's building this camaraderie and building these friendships and building this knowledge base. And it's also working one-on-one with me to go through that process. And my hope is that by having that one-on-one mentorship, and then as more students join, having that group mentorship and that group engagement, that collectively you guys are able to acquire a set of knowledge, skills, and abilities that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to have if it weren't for this lab and the work that we do. So in addition to all that, we have a frequently asked questions. So for example, a lot of questions that might come up right away is like, I never thought of research, so why should I now? And I'm going to go ahead and have this read to us to explain like what's the benefit of thinking about research as knowledge, skills, and abilities that you should acquire while you're here at Cuyamaca, or even if you've left already and transferred, or even if you've already graduated from a 4-year and you're thinking about applying for a master's or PhD program. So let me go ahead and have this read to us.
When I was in high school, I associated research with finding primary sources for class papers. I never thought of research as a process of asking questions and using the scientific method to answer these questions. And as a first-generation college student who made the choice to attend community college, I was not thinking of research either. It was not until I was invited by a professor to collect data for his research project that I unknowingly began to research. I believe you should think of research now for the following reasons. You can be a researcher. Researchers exist across a variety of fields. When I search O*net for the term researcher, it yields 354 unique occupations. The knowledge, skills, and abilities, KSAs, you obtain by researching will serve you well in your coursework at community college, 4-year university, and in life. Research KSAs, coupled with experience serving as a member of the Civil Grand Jury Lab, will help you differentiate yourself from other transfer applicants because research labs are uncommon at community colleges. Research is conducted at 4-year universities by faculty, so researching while you are in community college will prepare you for opportunities at your transfer institution, such as being an undergraduate research assistant. Research now to give yourself more academic and professional opportunities later. For example, if an entry-level research position is open at your transfer university, you can confidently apply for it because you have experience from your time as a community college student. Another example, if you learn about research in years 1 and 2 of your higher education experience, then you start to find that pursuing a master's degree, and particularly a doctoral degree, is rooted in engaging and conducting research.
So those are, at least top 5 reasons in my mind why you should think about research while you're a student here at Cuyamaca. And then we have other questions that can have answers like, why is asking questions about questions important? What's a research lab? What's an undergraduate student? So on and so forth. So I think the most important thing is that I'm here to help you in the research process and to be involved in something new and creative with respect to the focus area that we have on civil grand juries. And note that we've built a really strong partnership with the California Grand Jurors Association. And actually, we're going to be meeting next week with the effectiveness working group to see how we can further institutionalize that partnership. And then I also have a frequently asked question for faculty, and then you're obviously welcome to ask your own questions. Lastly is to join the lab. So here I have additional questions like, can you join? What are the benefits of serving? How many hours are expected per week? And things of that nature. So that's all there for you to check out. And then lastly, the application itself, which you can fill out here. And you express where you're interested in being involved or being engaged. So do you want to do lab facilitation, or do you want to do database or research or simulation or public policy? Or are you kind of open to everything, but you want to have more engagement or feedback before you make a decision? And then here's like how many hours per week. So at the minimum 2, at the max 8. And just knowing that, I want to help you as you're learning how to be a researcher. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get us to the last slide, which is questions or thoughts. I appreciate you taking the time to listen in, learning more, being able to navigate the Civil Grand Jury Lab website in more detail. And just know at the end of the day, right, the key is that I want to help you learn about the research opportunities. And obviously we apply our efforts to civil grand juries here in California, but the skills that you learn here will be transferable to other topics, other areas, other issues. It's really about building this core base that you can then build on in your going forward in your future. So with that, thanks for taking the time to listen in. I really appreciate you making the effort, and look forward to seeing your application. So take care and have a great rest of your evening.